Hey, hi, hello. I'm Daniel, and this is my book talk on Alas, Babylon, written in 1959 by Pat Frank. Alas, Babylon is a book, and it is about the potential post-apocalyptic future of a war between the United States and Russia. Now, this book starts off with a simple military mission over the Middle East in which a fighter pilot shoots down or attempts to shoot a enemy jet. That missile misses, hits a port on the Mediterranean Sea that is occupied by Russia. Then, lo and behold, we have a nuclear war. Now, this nuclear war, it starts basically with Russia coming closer and closer to the United States of America. There was no 0 hour, it was 0 minute, meaning they weren't going to, the Russians weren't going to shoot one missile, then shoot one missile all at the same time, and then they all boom, boom, boom. They were going to have it shoot one missile, and all have the nuclear warheads land at one time, meaning there would only be 5 minutes of preparation by the United States. So the United States got this warning message signal, and they had just enough time to shoot off just enough missiles to win the war against the Russians. Sorry, that's what happened. But the book is not really about the war. The book is about the community in Fort Repose, which is in Florida. The small community of Fort Repose was having an average day, just like the rest of the United States, when all of a sudden the war came. Nuclear bombs hit all over the United States of America, and few people knew that it was actually coming. A person that actually did know it was coming was Mark Bragg, a secondary character of the book. Mark Bragg is the brother of Randy Bragg, the main character of the book. Randy lives in Fort Repose, works an average job, does what he does. Mark, a few years prior, gained high stature in the Navy and discussed with Randy that one day when it happens, the end of the world comes, he'll give Randy the message, Alas, Babylon. Alas, Babylon is the message that Mark and Randy made when they were little kids and they listened to the preacher down at the Baptist church saying, Alas, Babylon, the end of the world is coming, or Alas, Babylon, something. Now, Mark, he had intel that the Russians were going to strike. He didn't know when exactly, maybe it was 2 weeks from now, but it didn't matter. He had the word, he sent it to Mark, and this word also meant that Mark would send his children and his wife, Helen, to Randy to live in Fort Repose because they had a better chance of surviving in Fort Repose than they did with Mark in Omaha. So, Randy got the message, Alas, Babylon, and then he sprung into action. He bought a bunch of stuff, went through the list, started preparing, and started notifying the people that he was close to in Fort Repose. Then, I think 2 days later, Helen came with the 2 kids, and then the next day, nuclear war struck. Now, this book isn't really about the war. It's about how the community of Fort Repose found its niche again, and how it went from being community based on money and you have this job and you have this job to surviving in the world. So the book takes place over a year long, or the first year after the day that they call when the nuclear war had struck, and is how they overcame many obstacles during the course of the book in the year after the day. Now, obviously, the setting in this book is Fort Repose in Florida, specifically at the Bragg House, which is down River Road from central town, about 2 miles. Randy Bragg lives on the Timucun, right off of the Timucun River, and just down the street, down his little property, is the Henry household, and they're the African-American families that help him out with yard work and whatever else he needs, what Randy needs. Randy Bragg is the main character of the story. He is the protagonist of the book, and he is the main guy that overcomes certain obstacles, like when do they run out of salt, and how are they supposed to deal with it? And when the highwaymen, the bad guys, the looters of the highway, come to his town, how do they deal with it? The antagonist of the book isn't really a specific person. It's more of Florida and the fallout after the war or the nuclear bombs hit. So nature, I think, would also be a good antagonist. Nature throws Randy and his family certain obstacles that they have to overcome, and then he fights his way through him or finds the next best alternative to how they should all live in this new world. So the way this book starts out is there's tension in the Middle East. The United States and Russia are both gearing up for war, yet they don't want to, it's mutually assured destruction, and they don't really want to shoot at each other. But Russia thinks they have a chance, so they're going to take it once they have the opportunity to. So, like I said in the beginning, the United States is going on an average fighter plane patrol, and they find a Russian plane. They try and shoot it down, but the missile misses and hits a port on the Mediterranean Sea that was occupied by the Russians. So the Russians then attacked the United States. This has relation to today because right now the United States and Russia have tensions because of election fraud and all of these things. Also, the book mentions Syria and how the Middle East is destabilized and the United States and Russia are both trying to go in and try and stabilize it. And that is happening today. So whether we're on the brink of nuclear war or nuclear fallout or whatever you want to call it, we have no idea. I highly, highly recommend reading this book because it's a post-apocalyptic book, not focused on a teenager, not focused on we have to kill other people to survive. It is how does a community rebuild itself in times of hardship, and how we went from being so advanced in technology to we can't even have a light because we don't have electricity. So how do we make a fire? Like, simple and easy as that. How do we move on past this tragedy? And it's a compelling story, and it really has a lot of insight of what we should do. Like, my mom keeps saying, yeah, we need to buy salt or toilet paper and needles and thread. And I'm like, Mom, we got to start prepping for the end of the world. But we don't really need to, because hopefully it won't happen. In addition to reading Alas Babylon, you might find also another interesting thing playing the video game The Last of Us. The Last of Us is another post-apocalyptic world in which zombie-type infected creatures take over, nature takes back, and humans have to survive. Without giving The Last of Us away, Joel has to get Ellie through many perilous, many dangerous obstacles because she is the cure to this horrible race of infected people, zombies. So, highly recommend playing The Last of Us, but way highly recommend reading Alas Babylon because of its compelling story, and it just makes you think, how do we rebuild after something has happened like this? So, Alas Babylon, great book. See you guys.